So let's go over to the whole Diablo 4 monetization, and I think that's an interesting thing. I will try to talk less because a lot of points that I brought up in the Overwatch situation are points that can be transferred, can be projected over to Diablo 4's monetization situation.
Let's go,
okay.
everybody. It is time to talk about the monetization of Diablo 4 because they just did a big, chunky old reveal of it. This is something that obviously in the light of Immortal has got us all pretty damn curious, let's just say. So for the vital context you need for this, Blizzard's content teams are chunky. Really, really chunky. World of Warcraft went up to like 700 plus people. Apparently that team is experiencing attrition due to some policies coming in from the top down that are going against what the game directors of Blizzard's projects are sort of saying to their leaders, which is rather unfortunate. But what we've seen is more monetization, but significantly more content. A very fine sort of balancing act, right? As an example, World of Warcraft had almost what you may call a microtransaction for $8, but against the backdrop of an absolute shit ton of content. You then look at Overwatch 2. Yep. While not all has been perfect there, you cannot deny that those seasons somehow have managed to come out, which, I mean, given that we didn't really expect things to go particularly well, given how aggressive their plans seem to be, is kind of surprising. And now when we look at Diablo 4, I think we see a game that is trying to have
the whole thing about Overwatch didn't age that well.
Less World of Warcraft, probably a little bit more Destiny 2. Now, Blizzard always said that this would involve some post-launch monetization. Now we're going to find out what that is. What I can tell you is a deluxe edition-sized elephant in this room. Diablo 4 is a premium launch with the base edition costing $70, right? Now, it does, of course, have your usual pre-order bonuses that are connected to other Blizzard games, a bunch of cosmetics, things like that.
The new premium full price of games.
For the deluxe edition, and that will get you 4 days of early access. So June 2nd release date. It's one of those
I'm at this point so freaking annoyed from those early access days. I mean, the thing is, they, for whatever reason, I have no idea why, but they work. Like, people spend $20 to get into a game just half a week before everyone else, and with the idea that they will be able to play the game without any problems. So, I haven't seen a single example where that was actually the case. Usually you're paying $20 to be in the early access of a game. Because let's be honest, until half a year after release, games in 2023 are simply not finished. They are not polished, they are not done. Right? And then paying extra money for the upfront server testing and I really don't get people who actually pay that money, but that's an example why things are how they are today. It's won't get better, I think.
Interesting things. Quite often you have some technical hiccups in that period, but this does solidify June 2nd as the real launch. And at least from my experience, and I think a lot of perceptions, this is a strategy that is extremely effective. I mean, what do you do?
Yes.
Okay, the numbers would have been easier. I could have just said, you increase your average price of a sale by like 25%. Not as high a percentage since we're $70 instead of $60, but you get my point, right? For almost everybody, and especially a game like this where it is a big, it's a big tide, right? A big tide of gameplay. Where, people are benchmarking themselves to their friends, right? Like, yeah, that's going to go humongous, I think, for them. And also, since PvP is more of a thing in this game, it does give people a little bit of a head start there. But we can add to this the Collector's Edition at $100, which is also roughly industry standard that does...
I mean, yes, but no, right? I don't think we have to talk about the fact that Diablo 4 won't be a big PvP game. It just won't happen. And therefore, I see the argument for the head start around the PvP mode element of Diablo 4, but it's not relevant whatsoever. That's again a very, very, very small minority that, well, it's again a very small minority that, let's say, speaks out their mind about these things. But you're usually talking about less than 1% of the player base from that kind of game that is actually interested in PvP. And usually it's even less for the people that actually participate in it actively after release, right?
Does not include the game. Now that being said, when you actually look at the Collector's Edition, it looks pretty sick. And in fairness to them, the Blizzard Collector's Editions are usually quite good. You, of course, get your big, sexy box, pin, cloth map, you know, art book, kind of the whole 9 yards. So that's the sort of thing. I won't really begrudge them too much. I actually... You'll soon see I have my own thoughts on having to do something similar to this, which maybe you'll find.
I mean, the whole the game is not included stuff, I think it's okay, right? I think that's a good thing. Because you have a lot of people that are just collecting these things without even unpacking them, right? That's great, and it's... I don't know if that's... I mean, it won't prevent scalpers from being scalpers, right? They will just still buy that stuff up and sell it for double the price. So I don't think that will have any positive effects on that. And besides that, yeah, I mean, it's actually, I mean, it's not really a big difference, right? If you're paying 180 for the collector's edition with the game included, or what is it, 90 bucks for just the collector's stuff, doesn't make a big difference, right?
Find out about in like a month or two. Anyway, as we go on then, you know, your $70 game, all your various different upsells, which I think will be highly, highly effective. Just look at the number of copies that D3 shipped on launch. Like, this franchise absolutely does the numbers. But then, of course, we've got whatever the hell's after that. So let's take a look at post-launch support. Okay, there are going to be quarterly releases. All right, so not as aggressive as Overwatch 2, but quarterly releases, and I actually think that is pretty damn fantastic. So, additional gameplay features, new quest lines, battle passes, legendary items, class balance changes, quality of life improvements.
Yes, it's good. Like, additional gameplay features, that's great. New quest lines, that's great. New legendary items, that's great. Class balance changes, that's great. QoL improvements. Every quarter, year, great. Battle passes. I said it in the Overwatch reaction. If you want to see it, just go on the channel. You'll find it really easily. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like FOMO. I don't like battle passes. It's stressing. It's annoying. Unless they are realized like in Halo Infinite, where they just, well, available forever and you can just choose on which battle pass to work on. Besides a system like that, they are just not great. I don't like them at all. But
also,
yeah,
fresh concepts and ideas to the game. So, seems pretty decent. Our first season starts mid to late July, over a month after the game comes out. Now, they've said that this is because these new seasons will all only be accessible post-campaign, right? So seasonal content is after the campaign. That's why they're doing that sort of delay. But it's not going to be a direct continuation of the campaign. They're going to leave that to the expansions. And they also have confirmed that the story can be skipped after the first time you've completed it, which of course just means you don't have to like redo the story on your seasonal characters.
That's great.
Overall then, this in itself is kind of interesting, right? You look at, say, a Destiny. One of the things people, I think, sometimes liked in Destiny was the progression of plot. Or at least the progression of lore between those seasons. Maybe we will still see that, like, you know, lore hints, things like that, that kind of, you know, weird live service way of storytelling that doesn't involve a shitload of content. But yeah, I think this is basically them wanting to get all that engagement, but still wanting the idea of a new expansion, you know, big new story, big new villain, all of that to be super exciting, and to, of course, drive humongous sales. Anyway, this also does follow something that Call of Duty has been doing. And I really have found this to be interesting because a lot of the modern Call of Duty games, whenever you boot them up and play them, you click in the store and you're like, what? There's a bundle that gives money to the Call of Duty endowment for veterans, and there's basically not much else in the way of monetization. This is loopy. And it's always then that, like, after a month or two, that's when the season starts. That's when the monetization comes in. So this kind of will happen. Kind of gives the game then that new marketing beat as the season drops. It's time to re-engage, and that is where all of your sort of optional spend and all of that sort of comes in. And this also has the very handy thing of allowing them to dodge having to show off any particular pricing or anything like that that could be kind of controversial. As an example, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 looked like a pretty damn, good, fair experience when you actually look at that on launch. And then very recently with DMZ mode, we've seen multiple, cosmetic bundles that do happen to have a gameplay benefit, which...
So, and that's basically one of the things, one of the big points I want to talk about. That's why we have watched the Overwatch 2 thing before. I was originally thinking about watching the Diablo Immoral video from Josh Strife, but I thought that's enough. Because what we basically have with Blizzard's last 2 games is a Overwatch 2. A game that now trashed something they promised before. A very big part, just to increase the monetization. And then we had Diablo Immortal, a game that is very similar to Diablo 4, for obvious reasons, that has a PR past of very specific wording to hide predatory monetization, right? We had the whole thing with we won't have pay-to-win gear sets, right? You won't get benefits by paying money for the gear, but in the end, it's exact the same, but the pay-to-win benefits were not in the gear, but in the gemstones you're going to put into the gear. So that is very, very clear misleading statements. And that's basically the reason why I personally have no hope whatsoever that this won't be something that will happen to Diablo 4 2. Like, the game releases, it will look... I mean, we will see in the video that, in my opinion, it's still, even on release, it doesn't look great for a game you're going to pay $70 minimum for. And then you still have a battle pass, an in-game shop, and some other FOMO bullshit. And but we simply don't know at this point. And I think that should be illegal, in my opinion, to add monetization. How the game will look like in Season 1, how the game's monetization will look like in Season 2, how it will look like 1.5 years down the road, right? And that's something that is very, very worrying to me.
Which is a bit scummy. Now, to go and talk about the seasonal journey then, this will be familiar to people who have played games like this. It's designed to showcase all the seasonal content to players by giving you chapters made up of individual missions, and if you click in it here, you can see exactly what it looks like. You've got your different chapters of the seasonal journey, and essentially just what a lot of players want. They want to go into their game, they want to have a clear goal, and they want to have something that just says, hey there gamer, this is what you can go and do to move your way through this.
That's great. I really like that one, to be honest.
Level by killing
I really, really like that one.
By winning matches in Halo Infinite or something. Something like this allows Blizzard to have it be a little bit more designed, a little bit more varied.
Because usually after the
rewards,
after the story missions, I'm in that kind of game. I'm not the kind of player that likes to have just numbers going up. So I have to have some form of goal, and it's either the hunt for cosmetics, and then deinstall the game, uninstall is the right word, and then uninstall the game after I got the cosmetics, so I basically don't get anything out of it, or just close the game after the story. So something like that on a seasonal basis is, in my opinion, a good thing. but I expect these things to be very similar to the Battle Pass, time gated. So you have to get into the game at least every week, then do a week of your stuff, or yeah. It would be great if you could just rush through all those objectives within the first few days, and then you're cool with the whole thing. Same goes for the Battle Pass. If you're able to rush through it within 1 or 2 weeks, and then you're just free to play what you want. You're not forced to look into the game every week, every day. It would be great, but that's not why people implement Battle Passes. Simply not. Or mechanics, objective mechanics like that.
Displayed. So it's pretty obvious. Now, all of this stuff is free, right? So you complete these missions, you see some of the new content, you get rewards. This is free stuff. But
wait for the expansions. Then they might not be free. Just saying.
If you also participate in the season, every challenge that you do awards you with favor. Completing quests.
Also, it's part of the game you're paying $70 for. So, right. Free in big quotes.
Gives you favor, joining events gives you favor, just generally doing stuff in the game gives you favor. Now, based on this screenshot, this is not necessarily something that's marked in super discrete numbers. You'll rather just see things that say, like, look at this, you know, reward, larger favor drop. So we're earning favor. What does favor do? Well, of course, favor takes us through the Battle Pass.
Of course, the Battle Pass. Woo! Yay.
Woo! We're back.
Yeah.
Battle Pass. It's one of those things for a long time that they have been seen to work. There have been good implementations of this. Not to be sitting here praising Halo Infinite, but the way that Halo Infinite guarantees that you do not, like, lose things that you've purchased with its sort of persistent model like that is really good. But obviously Battle Passes, we're now getting very fatigued by them as an industry because basically every single game is saying, hey, we need X.
Yes.
That's just what we need from you, gamer. To the point, I think, where people are just beginning to be really tired of being asked for that. Okay, so
Battle Passes are also very prominent and very, well, often used these days because we had the big loot box controversy after Battlefront 2, and then legislations kind of started to, well, manage loot boxes, like restrict them in some points and whatever. I don't know if we have anything specific except a few countries banning them altogether, but yeah, I think that's basically one of the biggest points why Battle Passes exist. Also, let's be honest, we also have a lot of games where Battle Pass exists besides loot boxes, so we get the bad things of both worlds.
There's a little bit of a look at the Battle Pass. We've got 27 free tiers and 63 premium tiers. This will last for 3 months. And it ain't a Halo Infinite, crew. It cannot be completed after that. And it can only be progressed on seasonal characters.
That's what I hate.
3 tiers will give you cosmetics, which are framed as being class agnostic. They give you smoldering ashes, which can be spent on blessings, right? So these are things like player-controlled boosts to XP, gold, and OBOL earnings during a season. Now, these are gameplay changing. And these are basically character level limited. So you actually cannot apply them unless your character reaches an appropriate level. And the reason why they've done this is that you can't just buy a whole bunch of tier skips and get all of these boosts and then hyper optimize your way like right up to the top with those boosts. So that's something they're doing to just
I mean,
the flow of progress.
Let's be honest, that won't change a lot.
Just maintain balance between the people who are and are not paying, which yeah, you know, that's good. I think in a game like this, XP boosts and stuff, they can actually be kind of fun. They can certainly be a very meaningful reward, given how this genre is very much codified along the lines of grind and time equals money.
That's true. But let's be honest, the main thing why that system exists is literally just to fill up the 100 levels of a battle pass. It's something that Fortnite did at the beginning, where we just had every I don't know, every 5 levels, I think, we basically had a level that just gave us a plus 5% XP boost, right? It's just filling up the Battle Pass levels with completely useless trash shit where they could have just, well, increased the XP rates for the Battle Pass. Crazy, I know.
Money. So, our premium tiers then, they are very explicitly framed in regards to what they are not, but we don't have a ton of detail on the actual content. So the upgraded track has 0 in-game power, instead has cosmetics unique to that season and the platinum currency. So platinum is a premium currency that you cannot earn in-game. You can only buy it with real money, and you can of course spend that in the shop or for future battle passes. So let's take a look at our pricing then. The battle pass is free, the basic one. You then have the premium battle pass, which is $9.99, giving you access to the 63 premium tiers of the pass, and then the accelerated battle pass.
So let's talk about it, right? First of all, I'm not a big fan to say, the upgraded track will not provide any in-game power. It only matters for people that care about pay to win in a game that basically doesn't have any competition at all. Like, yes, there's a PvP mode that most people won't play. There are leaderboards where most people don't give a shit about, let's be honest. And I personally think that in Diablo 4, or in general in that kind of game, I personally wouldn't give the slightest shit about pay to win. If somebody wants to pay money to progress in a game so he doesn't have to play a game, right? The whole thing, what games are for, to be played, and I couldn't care less about it, right? Let them spend money so they don't have to play the game. Duh. And as I said, there's no PvP advantage in any form. I don't know if we have some form of an auction house that might make some problems, but besides that, no, just no. And then the question is, it's a good thing to know that there is platinum, like the premium currency in the Battle Pass, but the question is, how much? Right? If it's enough platinum currency to, well, buy the following Battle Pass with it, I think that's fine. That's fine, but I think that's again just it's also just a way to fill up those levels, but at least that's something that has value, different to those XP boost stuff. And then we have the problem of the 3 tiers of Battle Pass, and that's just ridiculous in my opinion. That's something they absolutely copied from Korean games, and that's the point where I would say, especially, the 20 tier skips, I don't care about those, but stuff like the cosmetics is ridiculous to me, because I personally am not a player that cares about numbers. I can just say that over and over again. I don't care about pay to win in a game like this, because there's no competitive aspect of it. But I care about cosmetics, and the thing is, cosmetics is something that makes me play games, right? And it's a really hard position to be as a player that likes cosmetics, that likes that kind of individualization of your character, of your account, maybe housing and stuff like that. And then people are just always, this monetization doesn't have pay to win aspect in it, so it's completely fine. It's just cosmetics, what often equals to cut content from the game, put into a monetization system, right? And I'm the kind of person that basically gets robbed of the incentive to play a game without spending more money, right? So someone like me, I basically spend money to have a motivation to play the game at all, right? if the battle pass wouldn't exist and those things would be behind some form of achievements or bosses or whatever, I would do those. But here it's, well, behind a paywall, and I hate it. Again, in a game you will pay $70 for at release. And I'm really not a big fan of that. Especially with with the 2 tiers, right? Three tiers, but essentially it's 2 premium tiers. I just know. And I'm really confused why they didn't get a shitstorm for that. I'm really confused, to be honest.
To the 63 premium tier.
Like the tier skips, that's something that happens, right? That's what other games have too. But having cosmetical stuff behind it, and let's be honest, now it's just an emote. I'm very, I would be really, really confused. I would be surprised if the one cosmetic in the accelerated battle pass wouldn't be some real cool skin or something that looks great, right? Because with an emote, I don't think that's then a reason why people are going to pay the price for that.
And then the accelerated battle pass.
Yes.
Are you old? Are you old and crusty? Like, you know, I mean, I'm 28. I'm ancient. But do you want to be a zoomer? Do you want to be a zoomer and zoom through your battle pass? Well, you can do that for $25, where you will get 20 tier skips and the wings of the creator. Woo! Emote.
Yes.
Now, Blizzard also confirmed to Kotaku that the tier skips are otherwise $2 each, and that the accelerated pass exclusive items will not be available separately. Yes, so it's not just time equals money, it's also saying, hey, do you want to be that VIP? Well, you'll get a special little doodad. Alright, so the cosmetic shop then, let's talk about that. So the very first thing the Blizzard said about this shop, and they wanted to be clear, because I think they know that if they cock this up, they'll be murdered. It is just that you do not need to engage with it. And, of course, this is a challenging...
Yes, but you need to engage with it if you care about the cosmetics in it. That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, I don't like shops that are pushed into your face all the time, but it's still bad if you know there are cosmetics that exist but that are not available to you unless you're spending money.
Thing for Blizzard, because they are going up against you know, an industry where people are very...
So it's not invisible to me. Right.
Used to things in some free-to-play games, like, I mean, fairly obviously Path of Exile, but a lot of it comes down to a concept called price anchoring, which I'm sure you'll be aware of, right?
True.
It's like, you always, you process new information in regards, or, you know, with a strong consideration of what you previously expected.
Yes.
So it's like, if I go to you and say, I'll do the thing, it'll cost $3,000, and you say, no, that's too much money, and I'll say, okay, I'll do it for $2.5, and then you'll be like, oh wow, that's a $500 discount, fantastic.
True. That scratches the itch in our little reptile brain, right? It's also the thing that a lot of free-to-play games do with here, this pack costs originally $100, and now you can get it for just $5 or something like that. So you have 2000% value and shit like that. That's usually the icebreaker, and that shit only works because they anchored, right? They anchored the price, the original price of the items included in that usually very time-limited offer on a very, very high price. Right. That's also the problem when people say, if I want to go for the game has $200 monetization in it because you can buy premium currency pack, the maximum, the biggest premium currency pack for $200. But in the end, that's usually not the case, because the stuff they are making money off are those special microtransactions, quote unquote microtransactions, that they are just throwing at the players on a daily, sometimes just weekly basis, right? That's what they make money off, except for games that are are very clearly designed to attract whales. Whales.
Well, it only looks like a deal because I anchored it at $3,000.
Yes.
And it's like that with video game business models. Again, I bring up Halo Infinite as a good example there because people were anchored into the idea of an old Halo progression system where you could just get all the armor stuff, yourself.
Yep.
And then the deal changed. So that's why Blizzard will be very, very careful with this. So they argue that there are, well, I don't know if they're arguing.
But I mean, Call of Duty have done it too. So, right. And I mean, it's the same in RPGs. As I said, it's the same. Originally, you were just playing the game and you get all the armor sets and cosmetics and whatever just by doing challenges, achievements, whatever. And now they're just, well, paywalling it behind something like a battle pass. It's the exact same, right? Just the games are new and don't have. I mean, they're not. I mean, it's actually the same, right? I want to say, oh yeah, it's different because they're just new games, so it isn't that obvious. But in the end, Halo Infinite, it's the same, right? It was also a new game, and people were pissed. And now it's Diablo 4. It's just a new game of the Diablo series, and I don't know if it's because the anchor now is Diablo Immortal, so everything that isn't as bad as Diablo Immortal instantly looks better, less predatory, I don't know. But I think it's more likely that people just have double standards at this point. So
They're claiming that there are hundreds of transmogs, weapons, pieces of armor, including dozens of armor sets, all available to players at launch. And that everything in the cosmetic shop is to give additional options. More importantly, and this is bolded in Blizzard's original text, so they want you to know this is important. None of the cosmetics sold in the shop provide you anything greater than aesthetic variety. And they also make a point of saying that the dark, gritty elements of Diablo will be reinforced via all cosmetics, and this additionally means some shop cosmetics will be class-specific. But this mostly seems to be suggesting that they won't be doing wacky skins.
That's a good thing, so you don't have toy cars as mounts in the game, like in some Korean MMOs. I think it's a good thing. But again, I don't think it's a big argument to say, it's just cosmetic, because again, for a very big for a very big part of the community that consists of the type of player that I am, that likes cosmetics, that is a big thing, right?
Well, remember Battlefield Santa, that Battlefield players got a little bit confused over. Now, as for how the shop is going to work, explicitly something that you may never engage with, other than using it for, the platinum that you'll get via the Battle Pass. That it's for self-expression, not power, that they will be rotating cosmetics on a consistent basis, but that the shop will be intelligent. Yes, a smart shop that will recommend to you cosmetics that fit the playstyle and aesthetic of your current character. And that's one of those funny things, right? It reminds me of, advertisement personalization.
True.
Because by default, whenever an app or a website says, would you like a personalized advertisement experience? What do you and me do? We think, hell no, get out of me. You hit the no button, and then all the adverts are random shite. Whereas, how many times do you have a situation where, obviously, these sites, they all have telemetry on you, a brand that thinks that you are their customer, wants to reach out to you, they can do that via advertising, so they use a targeted ad in order to get in front of you, and that's how a lot of people maybe see some sort of brand on whatever algorithmically generated social media platform that they're using, and they think, oh, that advert actually looks interesting to me, I'll use that.
Yes.
So it's that interesting thing where even if you look at a Halo Infinite, and I like to bring Halo Infinite up a lot because it's a really good example of a failure that wasn't just like a failure of turbo greed or anything. It was a failure of just being just a squib. It was just like, pfft, Halo Infinite, bleh, no one cares, right? Where one of the things people criticized it of was, your shop's boring. So it's interesting there. This is one of those things where you'll see this and you'll be like, this is blatant profiteering, using an algorithm to make me spend more money. Whereas it's also just ensuring there'll be things that you actually might be interested in. So I think that's an interesting little brain teaser. Now, class-specific items.
I mean, it's not particularly bad. I mean, it probably means that's all. Yeah, here. Brup. Intelligent, recommend you cosmetics that fit playstyle and aesthetic of your current character means, where did we have it? I read it. Class specific, right? So you don't get cosmetics in the shop that won't be for your character. And it will probably also monitor whenever you go into the shop, or you will probably also have, what I'm expecting is that you sometimes when you log in and they have a new patch, you will get the same notification like in Fortnite, like you have some, oh, here is a new event, next tab, oh, here is a new shop cosmetic, new tab, oh, here the quests for Season 2, Week 3 are unlocked, and so on and so forth. And they will probably monitor how long you're looking at the specific tabs for the shops to monitor if you may be interested or not, and then will probably cycle your shop depending on these things. Probably also for what kind of transmogs you're using in the game with your character. Like if you tend to, like, I don't know, use a lot of black stuff, a lot of black clothing, and I don't know, violet. In my case, probably violet weapons or whatever. Then you might probably get a higher amount of skins that fit more into that kind of style in the shop. That's my personal theory. And it's a good and bad thing, right? In general, I think if you can, if you're able to handle these things, if you're basically safe with your money, like if you don't tend to affect spending, like instant spending, like you see something, oh, looks cool, I need it, and then press a button. If you're not like if you're not tend to that spontaneous kind of reaction, it's probably safe. It's a good thing for you. If not, then it will just increase the amount of money people will spend on a game, even when they might not use that kind of skin long term or not. It's a two-sided blade, basically.
Will be on the account level, not the character level. Diablo Immortal. And as a result, cross purchases are available. So any platinum or cosmetics that are on PC will, of course, be available on console. For me, this is a fairly... well, the idea of cross progression is a fairly major thing. I think that, well, I know this game runs and feels fantastic on console because that's actually how I played it originally. But I would like the option on PC, so that is good. Now, they also stress that there's a preview function that is a key element of the store, and the reason why they've done that is to let somebody fully inspect the cosmetic. It's a little bit like what they did in FF14, where I think basically your character goes to sleep in a bed in an inn and then can dream of what the microtransactions look like on them, which is, again, that thing of like, well, try before you buy, actually see what it is.
Okay.
And finally, they end by showing us some paired sets, which are framed in a way to suggest that the in-game look can be just as cool. So let's take a look at this then. We have...
Yeah, I mean, preview function is like basic, right? That should be there if you're going to spend, I don't know, probably, if we take the Overwatch 2 shop as an as the base, then we'll probably talk about 10 to 30 bucks skins. Like, that's not cheap, right?
Have our in-game look over here, which, all right, pretty sweet. We have our paid look, maybe a bit cooler, but I mean, yeah.
The problem is those comparisons are nitpicky.
This specific example doesn't feel egregious. Now, this is one example.
Because they just still look very different.
Obviously, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. You can very easily cherry pick things, because they could choose the things that they think are the best free cosmetics and then choose the paid cosmetics that they think are...
For example, here, I don't like the left side. That's too edgy for me. The right side is more streamlined, more elegant. That's more something for me, right? I like that style in general much more. So in that case, that comparison, the shop side is absolutely would be my preferred kind of look. So that's basically what I mean. And the main problem was also that depending on how they handle the cosmetics, I think it will be just included in the existing transmog system. Then it's also a problem because you can, well, basically combine those sets with each other, right? So I don't know if you like the upper part of that skin, right? But maybe the mask and this the lower, the leg parts of that skin, then you would just be able to combine those after you've purchased that one in the shop. And
the most niche.
Again, that's
take a look at this in-game shop. I
don't like that at all.
I mean, honestly, I think these both look sick. So I really like them both.
Yes.
But again, these are cherry-picked examples that are there to prove their point. The example here is legendary armor through gameplay on the left, and then armor cosmetics over on the right. So look, really, so far, so live service. It is what it is. And that's not the dirtiest thing. Because from my perspective, is what I've always said with mounts in World of Warcraft. People will accept more of that microtransaction stuff if they feel like their core desires in the game are being met.
True.
And that's why whenever people started to talk about, World of Warcraft, Boar Lords of Paymore, that was because in Warlords of Draenor, the in-game mounts were often just like reskinned boars that had this really bad animation where they shuffled along, but in order for the animation to actually look fast enough, they basically looked like they were a bunch of like coked up boars. While at the same time, we had a bunch of really nice in-game store cosmetics. With the store mounts.
Of course,
That's why you call it Boar Lords of Paymore, because it's like, well, the mounts in game are kind of naff. Look at those ones in the store, and then you could even look at situations in the game where you're like, that's the what? Why is this base where a store mount is grown? Because that would be to people a little bit like finding Netherwing in the brain.
I mean, the problem is, as I said before, it always feels like it's cut content. It's like it could have been just in the game, especially when the shop exists already at release. Right? That means they put resources into the content of the shop instead of putting that into the game behind achievements or whatever. So it always feels like cut content. And then again, if you have a shop, if you have a battle pass, your incentive is always, after that point, after you cross that line, your incentive is always to put the better things into the shop. Or behind the monetization. Always. Yeah, so...
Burning Crusade, but you can't get the Netherwing Drake in-game because instead it's on the store. That's the thing that feels terrible. Whereas right now, I will roll my eyes and groan at how they're doing some of the monetization in World of Warcraft. However, I will at least feel that the content deliverance end of that bargain is significantly more healthy. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Final Fantasy XIV community was generally more okay. Now, they did have some dramas, of course, but they were generally more accepting of their in-game store because they felt like they were being given a completely incredible experience in-game and a content cadence that was very reliable, that engendered good faith. So that's what's going on here. There is the other side here of D4's development, certainly.
So, again, the problem is, he said, basically, hey, if the content of the game is good, then you can have shop things. Again, I personally think, yes, technically, yes, it doesn't hurt that much, but again, World of Warcraft doesn't have a battle pass, right? It's the shop is the only kind of monetization World of Warcraft has, besides the token system. And that's basically it. And for Diablo 4, again, a game you will pay $70 for. We don't know how expensive the expansions will be. Probably also around that. Maybe priced like the World of Warcraft expansions. So, yeah. Can be discussed when we know more about that. But the game straight up starts out with a battle pass and a shop. Full price, $70, battle pass and a shop. For the people that want to play 4 days earlier, $90 again, battle pass and a shop. It doesn't feel right at all, in my opinion. And yeah, I see the point. I mean, it's cosmetic shops are established at this point. We're just used to it, to just have cut content out, put it into the shop, and yeah, we are just got used to it, how it is, right? Especially the people that don't care about cosmetics always push the point of, oh, it's not pay to win, so it's fine. Again, that's not the case for me and a lot of other players, but it is how it is. It is how it is. It's not good, in my opinion. It's not cool. I probably would be more fine with it if they had either a battle pass or a shop. But yeah, they don't. Whatever.
Having some issues. I mean, we've got this, you know, some of the worry from staff. Quote, I think my future at Blizzard, my days are numbered. One current member of the D4 team said to Kotaku. They said some others.
Okay. That has nothing to do with the Diablo 4. That's World of Warcraft, right? Right. Okay. Rude. So again, good video in general. I will link it to you in the chat. Here it is. The thing is, again, I'm not a big fan of the monetization of Diablo 4 at release. And looking at Diablo, looking at Overwatch 2 and Diablo Immortal, I'm not optimistic enough to think that that there won't be more monetization afterwards. I don't think so. I guess it will be a very similar situation to Gran Turismo, what was it, 7? Where they had basically the release, we had all the reviews, all the short-term reviews, so the meta score got the good numbers, and then basically a few weeks later they would just add more things to it. We'll also have to see how the whole character management will look like. If you will be able to change your character, I don't know if we're going to have servers, so they would be able to sell you server transfers and stuff like that. I don't know about that, but overall I don't think it will stay with just the battle pass and the in-game shop, and I think that's bad enough at this point. And that's also why I won't play the game at release. I don't know if I am going to play Diablo 4 at all. That's something I will have to see in a year or two, I think. And yeah, let's be honest, if the battle pass is really just FOMO stuff, I will probably not play the game at all. Because every time I see a game with a battle pass, I am seeing it I looked into RuneScape a week ago, and it was like, okay, they have this Yak track, and I saw the Yak track had some really cool cosmetics, and I won't be able to get any of those at any point in time, and it really kills my motivation to play the game, right? Because I would play the game and I know that thing that I want, that what motivates me to play a game, is just not reachable. It's not obtainable for me. And yeah, that is how it is.